and I'm Hospitality Director here at the Precious Blood Renewal Center. And today we're going to be cooking a frittata. So a frittata in Italian means to fry or something that has been fried. So we are going to make a frittata with onions and tomatoes and some ricotta cheese. So frittatas go back a long time, and it's really a dish where you can combine whatever leftovers or whatever you have at home as far as vegetables or meat that you may have at home, maybe leftover from a dish. Sometimes people will also use pasta, like leftover pasta, to put in a frittata. And I know growing up, my mom would make this for us a lot at dinner time as either an appetizer or maybe something that went with soup or salad or really anything. Even with our pasta dishes, sometimes she would make a frittata on the side. And so I want to also tell you what the difference is between a frittata and an omelet, because a lot of people think it means the same thing, and it isn't. So an omelet is usually where you put raw ingredients into the eggs that are already cooking, and you kind of flip it over is the omelet, okay? And with the frittata, it's where you incorporate and combine all the cooked or steamed vegetables or whatever ingredients you have into the egg mixture, okay? So you can compare the egg mixture once it's cooked maybe to maybe like a custard type, but we're going to show you today how to make this. So it's very simple. You can use ingredients what you have at your house in the refrigerator, and like I said, I grew up on these and they're absolutely fantastic. And you can also have the kids come in and help you do it, okay? So first we're going to start off with around 8 to 10 eggs, about a half of an onion sliced, a fresh tomato. We're going to slice the tomatoes, and then fresh basil. So we're going to use fresh basil. We're going to grate some fresh mozzarella cheese. You can use pecorino cheese, asiago, provolone. It's really up to you. I've already grated some, so we'll be using this. And then we're going to be using about 6 to 8 tablespoons of ricotta cheese. And then some recipes call for some whipping cream. If you don't have whipping cream, you can use milk. If you don't have milk or can't have milk, you don't have to include it in your recipe. I like to include it because it does give the frittata a kind of light, fluffier taste and texture to it. And of course, we're going to need some olive oil and salt and pepper. And then my other little secret ingredient to this is that I put in, and I will show you later, about a teaspoon of baking soda. And what the baking soda is going to do once it's in the oven, it's going to help it rise a little bit, so it's going to give it a little bit more of a thicker texture to it, or, you know, once it's in your cast iron skillet. Now, I use a cast iron skillet. You can use any kind of frying pan that you have at home. I'm just used to the skillet, the cast iron skillet, because I go from stovetop to oven with it, and that's my preference, but you're welcome to use whatever skillet you have at home that is oven friendly, that is. So anyway, so we are going to start cracking some eggs and slicing tomatoes and an onion, and we'll be right back. Hi guys, so we have chopped or sliced our onion, and I sliced the tomato, and the reason why I have the paper towel here is because you have to make sure that the tomato, all of its juice in there is kind of dry, okay? So the paper towel kind of absorbs all that water. So that's why you don't want to put this included in your frittata if it still has a lot of water. So any type of vegetable that you steam or cook prior to making your frittata, make sure that you drain the water or kind of pat it dry with a paper towel, because you don't want your frittata to be watery. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I've already preheated the oven to 375. So while you're putting this together, go ahead and turn your oven on and preheat it to 375. And I have, maybe on medium heat here, some olive oil in my cast iron skillet. Don't be stingy on your olive oil. I really don't measure my olive oil, but to be accurate, I guess you can say anywhere from maybe 3 to 6 tablespoons. I just kind of eyeball it, and I'm going to let this kind of get a little warm. And then we're going to put our onions at the bottom. We're going to kind of saute the onions, kind of like this. I don't like dicing my onions for this. I think it looks pretty because when you flip your frittata, it's kind of going to give it a little bit of a design on top. So I just kind of like to put my onions in a ring. And like I said earlier, you can use any type of onion you have in the house, whether it's a sweet onion, a white onion, a red onion. I happen to have some yellow onions in my fridge. So, and the onions are starting to smell very good. I like a lot of garlic. I'm not putting it in here today, but I like a lot of garlic. And sometimes I will put maybe just a clove of garlic in here. And it does not have to, I mean, you can crush the garlic, you can, whatever you want to do, you can put it in here whole. It doesn't really matter. It just kind of gives it that little bit of taste. Or, if you don't have any fresh garlic at home, go ahead and use the powdered garlic, okay? It doesn't give it that same fresh taste, but we'll take it. Okay, so you can see that the onions are kind of getting a little translucent, which means they're cooking. And while this is cooking, I am going to lower my heat because I'm going to, as you can see, I have my eggs here, and I'm going to start beating my eggs. So I cracked 8 eggs. Okay. But like I said, you could do 8 to 10. Put a little salt in there, a little bit of pepper, okay? And then a 1/4 cup of cream, whipped cream. Like I said, if you don't have it, it's not a big deal. I like it because I like mine a little fluffy, okay? Then I'm going to add about a tablespoon to 2 of the grated cheese. I called it mozzarella earlier, but I actually grated parmesan, so that's my mistake. Okay? So then one thing I forgot to grab while I was getting my things is the baking soda. So I'm going to stick maybe a teaspoon or a pinch of baking soda into my eggs here and beat that real well. Okay, so here we are with the onions. So to me they look really good, and boy does it smell really good too. So okay, so we're gonna kind of put that like that. So your onions are cooked. Now, how am I gonna get the sides, you think? Well, we're gonna spray that with some cooking spray, because it's important to make sure your sides are gonna be non-stick, hopefully. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the tomatoes here. Okay. We're going to make a pretty circle with them. Put them all around. Kind of like this. Okay. And we'll stick one in the middle so it looks really pretty. We're going to kind of move that. See how I kind of made a little bit of a pattern? I'm just doing it because I like to be like that. But you could do it, you could place the tomatoes however you like it, okay? So they're going to be there. And then I'm going to cut, remember I told you to get the basil, the fresh basil? We're going to put that all over, okay? Kind of spread the basil all over. Man, my mom used to cook this and it smelled the whole house. So then you're gonna just kind of make sure, because you still have to put your ricotta cheese in here, okay? So now we're going to pour in our egg mixture. Okay. Okay. We're going to pour in our egg mixture. Now we are going to let this kind of sit and cook a minute or two, and I'm going to cover it up and we're going to let it cook, because before we stick it in the oven we just want to make sure that we're getting the bottoms of it kind of cooked just a little bit. So we're going to leave it on this on top of your stove here. I've let this cook here for a few minutes, and as you can see, the tomatoes kind of floated up on top, and if you just stick your spatula on the bottom, you could kind of feel it starting to the eggs are starting to cook a little bit, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I am going to put the 6 to 8 tablespoons of ricotta cheese in there, okay? So you're just going to drop it in there like that. Okay. And if you don't like a lot of ricotta cheese, don't use it. You could use fresh mozzarella cheese if you wanted. So, okay. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put about 6. Then I'm going to top it off with another tablespoon of grated parmesan cheese. I must have mozzarella on my mind today. Okay, guys. So, do you see how it's getting kind of cooked on the sides? Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to stick it in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, check it in between time, and then we'll put it to the plate. back again, guys. So I took the frittata out of the oven and I let it rest for just a minute or two. And you want to take a small spatula and kind of go around the sides and loosen it up a little bit before we flip it. Now remember, you have the ricotta cheese in here, and you've got the parmesan cheese in here, so it's going to be a little soft in the middle because of the cheeses that kind of all combine. But it is done. This is completely done. You can tell just by the look and by the feel of it. You can also, if you're really worried about it, you can stick a toothpick in the middle of it, and you know, the same concept when you check for a cake to see if it's done. So I'm going to get a plate in which the diameter of the plate has to be larger than the bowl or the pot that you have it in here. And you want to make sure you have your hot pad and maybe a couple of hot pads. And we are going to flip it. Okay, now hopefully this works. Okay. I'm hoping that it flipped, and it did. Okay, so there is your frittata. Okay? And it smells wonderful, guys. It really smells great. So it's fully cooked and it is ready to eat. So usually with the frittata this size, we probably have about maybe 6 to 8 servings, okay? And before I cut it, I like it to let it sit and cool off a quick minute. And in the meantime, you can pour a little bit of wine. I used red wine today for me and my friend who's coming to have a little frittata with me. Some of the things that you can serve with your frittata or have with it is you can have, and I think I mentioned this earlier, some people, my mom used to make it as a side dish to pasta or a side dish to some kind of stew or some kind of soup that she made for dinner, even for a light lunch. So some people even make these for brunches, served with maybe a side salad of your choice, a garden salad, a Caesar salad, whatever kind of salad. And sometimes we used to just have this for lunch with a nice loaf of Italian bread and the frittata. Again, I want to remind you, frittatas can be made with all kinds of vegetables, even different meats. Some of the meats include pancetta, prosciutto, chicken, you know, anything. My dad used to get kielbasa sausage, and we used to make it with kielbasa and some potatoes in there. Or sometimes my mom would change it up and use kielbasa with peppers, you know, green peppers and onions. So there's different varieties. I know one lady who would make them every year for St. Joseph's Day celebration. She'd make a cauliflower frittata and a broccoli frittata. Wonderful. And sometimes the specialty one was when she made the asparagus. That was one of my favorites. So we're going to go ahead and cut into this. And we're going to plate it. It smells divine. As you can see, kind of looks like a little custardy texture inside of it, if you can see it. Okay. There's the tomatoes, the cheese, the basil in there, the onions. It smells wonderful. So this is a great dish to serve when you are serving people, even as an appetizer, even for breakfast sometimes. You want a hearty breakfast and you're tired of making those breakfast casseroles for the holidays. Well, go ahead and make a frittata for breakfast. It's still healthy, and it's got the eggs. You can still have it with some toast maybe. But the one thing that cooking for me has become a very spiritual practice for myself. And I learned a lot from my mom growing up. And I have a few of her recipes that I have that I can actually hold and touch. But the ones that really resonate with me are the ones I hold in my heart, that I learned with her when we would cook together in the kitchen, or just by watching her or telling me stories of her and her mother cooking. One thing about my mother's style of cooking that really inspires me is how she was empowered by God's perspective of love, of kindness, and hospitality. You know, that goodness that comes within you, and you cook, and it comes out in the taste of the dish that you make. And I've kind of embraced that same idea, that same practice that, you know, I learned from my mom. And it helps me to understand who I am. It helped me to understand better who she was. And it also helped me understand where I came from. So with this being said, I hope that you enjoy your frittata with a friend or a family member. And remember to embrace love, kindness, and hospitality in all that you do every day. Until next time, bye. This is good. Bon appetit, everybody.